Well, folks, it's Thursday night, and that means it's time for Jungle Drums. Oh yes, it's been a whole week since I've seen you. Well, unless you've tuned in on Tuesday, of course, when I was playing video games. Right, I'm joined once again by Sergeant J. How are you this evening, fine sir?
Tired, but I'm good.
Did you have a busy day at work, did you?
Oh yeah, love those 5 a.m. starts.
Oof, that's rough. I've got to get up quite early myself in the morning, but oh well. Shit happens.
Need monies.
Yeah, we do. What you been playing lately in your free time, sir?
Wildlands.
Wildlands.
I haven't touched any other game.
Really?
Yeah, no, I want to get through this because I know if I pick something else up, it'll just get added to my list of games I'm halfway through and haven't finished it.
That is fair enough. Well, we do have some Wildlands news. Just in a couple of minutes. What I want to talk about first, and I'm so glad that you're here this evening, was something just as, I was going to school this morning and I was looking through my news feed, on my phone, and I saw something, and as soon as I saw this, it made me think of you. But anyway, the headline, so to speak, was originally from WCCF Tech, and basically it said that, look, there's a limited time offer, 92% off the Intro to Unity 3D Game Development Bundle. Now, to put this into context, that bundle is usually $265, so whatever that is, in our money, and it's been discounted to $19.99. And so I was looking at it. Now, I really want to get your spin on it in just a minute, Jay, because obviously I've never used Unity. I know very little about it. All I know is that, okay, yeah, you can, make games and stuff with it. But so this development bundle came with, a whole bunch of packages. They're all like online lessons. Basically there's one that is supposed to help you learn how to build mobile games in Unity 3D without even having a code. Kind of like a what you see is what you get. There's some multiplayer stuff, a coin management system, email list building, building a video reward system, character gear and weapon use, and then another quite a big chunk of this deal was fundamentals of programming, which gave you the opportunity to access 43 lectures in order to gain a foundation in Swift and C#, learn the fundamentals of programming that can be applied to learning any language, understanding the debugging process, and discover coding with hands-on real-life examples. So that's the thing about this bundle. It's, it's a bundle to help you learn, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but Unity itself, that's free, right? Or please tell us more, Jay, about Unity.
Unity is a free package, obviously. The only time you ever have to pay for a license is if you are going to be commercially selling whatever you're making it.
Ah, okay.
It's essentially like with Unreal as well, I believe. And if you're going to be doing anything with it where you're going to be making money from it, or commercially, then you have to pay for a license, I believe. If it's anything you're going to do for free, so if you release a game having made from it, so it's a free game, they will not charge you anything for it, because obviously you're not using it to make money. But anything that, I'm correct, I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure you need to pay for a license if you plan on using it for anything commercial. So anything you want to sell from it, anything you want, if you want to release games that you're going to sell, then you need to pay for that license.
Okay, now, obviously you have your degree in game design and whatnot. Did you use much of Unity in school?
No, I didn't at university. Actually, I didn't use it at all.
Okay.
Mainly what I used, like I said, was I used the, what is now, so I don't think it's really used that much anymore, it's the NXT framework within C#. And also, as I said, I used a lot of the Unreal Engine.
Yes.
What's the most recent Unreal Engine?
Oh god, I don't even know if
I think it's 4,
is it 4.0? I'm not sure if they still use the number system or... But yeah, I think it was 4.
But yeah, I used Unreal Engine 3 to do my level design work, which was it was quite good, to be fair. And I also used a really program you've probably never heard of called VirTools in my first year, which was shocking. It was supposed to be sort of prep work for Unreal. I kind of just wish we'd gone straight into Unreal, because VirTools was a nightmare. There was the main character you had to use for it was called Pierre, and a couple of the couple of years before at uni, people had actually created a Facebook group called Hate Pierre or something because he was that much of a pain in the ass to work with.
Okay.
No, so yeah, I used Unreal mainly in my second year level design, and then obviously a lot of the programming I did was done in the within the XNA framework.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So, I mean, what do you think of this this package then? I mean, because it looks like there's a whole bunch of resources there. I mean, just the discount itself, 92% off.
Not too bad, to be fair. Saying this, I've because I've got a 2D one I've been following recently. I use Udemy as a good website to buy courses.
Okay.
And you'll usually, I think your first buy from there is quite cheap. So, for example, I brought from Unity. It's essentially from Udemy. Sorry, it was 195 quid. Thing is, at the moment it's on 95% off as well. It's 10 quid, but they always seem to be on sale quite a lot anyway. But the whole, what you're getting for your money is worth it by the looks of it. To be fair, not 20 quid is $20. Sorry, at this point, it's a steal. Like, you wouldn't say no to something like that if that's what you wanted to learn to do. I've never really delved into obviously Unity. There's a lot of scripting. Obviously, for the work I've done in it, I've done a lot of programming as well. I've done programming side of it, but it's really cool. Unity's a great package, to be honest. If you're going to learn how to make games, I'd advise anybody to download it and learn it. Okay.
Is it something that you think you might maybe dabble with at that price? Or is it not really something that's up your alley?
I don't know yet, to be honest with you.
Because that's what you need, right? You need more stuff on your plate.
Yeah, well, I want to finish off. I still want to finish off this 2D one I'm doing, because obviously 3D is especially if you take it from a coding point of view as well. Probably just it's a whole different ball game. It's just that whole extra axis you've got to play around with and use and utilize. It's crazy. It's quite funny as well, actually, because the Unity 2D version still is technically on a 3D grid, but obviously it makes it the way you set up and play around with it.
Right.
Actually, it looks like it's on 2D in a 2D sort of frame, but it's not.
Got it.
But obviously, the viewpoint will always be 2D, so you're not going to be able to move around to 3D whilst you're playing it, but you can sort of move around when you're looking at it in the actual design point of view. You can obviously move stuff backwards and forwards along the one, like I say, the Z-axis, correct? So you can put things sort of like further in front because it's weird how it all works. If you have stuff on the same sort of level, sometimes it can cause things to look like they're blurring into one another and stuff like that. That's always going to be the same sort of thing with a 2D viewpoint. Because I think it was like, for example, in XNA, whenever you did it, whatever you drew first would obviously be in the background, and then whatever you drew last would be in the foreground. So for anything like that, you always had to make sure you had the right draw.
No, I just thought it was interesting. I mean, especially since, I mean, okay, yes, it's not like anyone's going to just be able to jump right in and make things like Clash of Clans, but basically Clash of Clans is made using, these tools, right? I mean, it's quite interesting that, if you're really, if you want to try to learn how to design mobile games, from my understanding is this package has some tools in it that you can actually make 3D modeling, pixel art and whatnot, without having to know a single line of code. That with this package, a lot of it's kind of what you see is what you get.
Well, yeah, that's the exact thing. It makes it easily accessible. And again, obviously, you're using the Unity multiplayer to help you create. Obviously, it says all this real-time network. I've never actually delved into that, and that's something I'll probably look at some point. But it's for what you're getting. To be fair, I definitely think it's worth the money, especially as I said at that discount.
Cool.
And you sometimes find a lot of this stuff put on discount anyway. It's normal, sort of. I said, like Udemy does it a lot. But yeah.
No, that was cool. Like I said, when I saw it, I thought of you because I know you've been kind of playing around with things lately and whatnot. I've seen it a few times, like on Discord, where it says Sergeant J playing Unity.
Yeah, well, I like the package a lot. To be fair, part of me's also been really tempted to re-download Unreal Engine 4, but at the moment, I'm holding off doing that. Much more stuff. I don't end up getting started on one thing and then wanting to do something else.
Yeah, that's understandable. Right, next on the hit list is, I mean, there's news all over the bit about what just recently happened, or happened to Ghost Recon. So, in case you missed it, you know, if you're not playing Wildlands at the moment, there was a huge patch on all platforms. They did a maintenance on PC first, then they did PlayStation, then they did Xbox. So this story is from mspoweruser.com, and basically it's talking specifically about the patch on Xbox One, which was about a 3 gigabyte update.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah, and you know, man, I know we're both playing it, and we've discussed this a little bit, and you know, there's a lot of opinions out there, a lot of different experiences, and you know, yes, there's been some bugs. Some of the bugs I've read about are really quite severe. I've only had, you know, a few silly things happen to me, but nothing super duper game breaking. But some of the things that folk were reporting was physics issues, quests not progressing properly, computer controlled characters doing stupid stuff. Now I've had that before, where I had a couple of them floating, my teammates were up in the air, and gunplay, and then of course there's things like helicopters where I don't think you still haven't had this bug happen to you, have you, Jay, where you just lose control of the helicopter. It just, what it does is it starts to climb like uncontrollably and go backwards at the same time.
No,
and
nothing like that.
There's nothing you can do, you just have to jump out the chopper. But so anyway, there's a whole bunch of issues and also connectivity problems, and this huge 3 gigabyte patch addresses quite a lot, but there's so many more other things that aren't in the patch. So hopefully they kind of get to it. Some of the kind of highlights here that I was looking at was, okay, they adjusted various missions. Some of these, there were some story missions that are now unlocking correctly that they weren't before. There was some situations where dialogue wasn't triggering correctly. You know, didn't experience that myself. There were some missions that were not replayable and they should have been. They've now fixed that. I'm not sure how many folk knew about the farming exploit on Rebellion Rising.
I didn't have a clue about that.
I remember reading something about it briefly, but just kind of, you know, moved on, so to speak. And then also an issue about characters exiting the vehicle properly. But I mean, you go through the list. I mean, look, there's interface, multiplayer, connectivity, there's gameplay, there's audio, there's graphical things, stability, and world. It's definitely a substantial update. You know, I mean, how has your experience been on it so far? I mean, have you had many bugs?
I've had a few bugs where I've had to physically restart the game, or I've had to sort of leave an area. So I had one bug where it's about a couple of weeks back, where I came up to a area. It was I'd say a sort of stronghold. A lot of the cartel there, and I brought my drone up and scanned the area, revealed it for me. Great, fantastic. My drone was stuck on scanning. So I looked at, obviously, you can look at the question mark, can't you, in the air? I was looking at that, and where your little loading circle is, about 3 or 4 of the little lines were filled in that, but it wasn't moving, and as a result of that doing that, I couldn't mark anything to use my sync shots, so I had to take this whole entire camp down by using my binoculars and pretty much playing it safely like that, which was a pain. Different place, though. It wasn't game breaking as such, because I could get around it, it wasn't a problem, but that kind of annoyed me. Eventually I travelled somewhere else and it just fixed itself, luckily.
Oh, what a nightmare.
And I had another one, actually, yesterday I think it was, or today, where I found an area, question mark area, got to it, it still said question mark, and it was kind of annoying me, quite frustrating, so I had to, because obviously, again, not necessarily game breaking, but me being me, I had to restart the game, because I needed that question mark off my map. I've had some stupid stuff with helicopters as well. Like, for example,
yes, you have.
Looked in the club recently. I took a photo of it. I called in for a helicopter, and no word of a lie, this helicopter landed, got caught in a building, and from its tail end, it was sticking out at a 90-degree angle from the building. And I was like, nice, great, I can use that.
Oh man, yeah.
I posted up in the club. So, but yeah, and then again, I had a helicopter. Destroyed a helicopter, crashed into one of the, those like helicopter missions where you got to take them off to get all your resources from.
Yeah.
So it crashed into that. Again, I recorded this bit on the club. Took off with the helicopter, thinking I'd be fine, the one would disappear. It dragged my helicopter to the side caused a massive load of problems. I just exploded, and I was like, right, nice.
No, well, you know the helicopter issues I've been having, aside from losing control whenever I call in for one. Not all the time, but quite often it just lands right on top of me
I've had that happen
kills
recently,
me.
which is quite good. I must say as well, I like the fact that they've, talking about obviously this patch, how they've made it so you can pick what vehicle you want dropped.
Yeah, see, I think that was a huge oversight. I mean,
yeah, whenever it came to it, I always wanted like an armored SUV for convoys, and I was like, I'm gonna get a helicopter. Great.
Yeah, no, you're right. That armored truck is just great. You know, I mean, it's got a really powerful chain gun on top of it. It's got good heavy armor, and almost felt bad. Well, I did feel, a bit of regret when, it's nice to have a helicopter on call anytime, but you miss that armored vehicle. Like you say, for some of the missions, like convoy-related ones, it's a really, strong option.
Their audio is still bugged for that, though, because I didn't change it when I first dropped it. I didn't realize how you changed it, so I dropped the first vehicle, which was a car. And it went, we've dropped your helicopter, and I was looking for it like, no, you haven't.
Oh, really?
I dropped the car, and it said, here's your helicopter, and then the car appeared, and I was like, great, nice. But then I don't know if, obviously, all that looks sorted out, but
it's just the same old story when it comes to Ubisoft. I love them, I do like the games, but they just, I just don't get it. Is it because, because again, like from your kind of, game programming savvy point of view, is it because it is so complicated? Like a big game like Wildlands with so much going on with the physics engine and the AI and the graphics and the world, and
there is a lot going on, but I don't think that's necessarily the problem, because with any sort of program, as long as you structure it well enough so that you can. This is probably half the reason why you'll find some bugs very hard to find, because it'll be a bug that's not necessarily caused from one line of code, from multiples where they all link. Because obviously, as you've done this, obviously like object-oriented design, you're using classes, you're using hierarchy, you're using inheritance, polymorphism, all those sort of things, which is they're all sort of interconnecting and everything. I don't think necessarily the programming is a game. I could be wrong in this. They could have a lot of extensive testing, but having not worked in the game industry, I'm not too sure. But it seems nowadays companies are more in a rush to get these games out.
Yeah.
And for me, again, as well, you've got to look at it from. I think part of this is we've been spoiled again due to consoles being able to connect to the internet and giving us all this connectivity. Because you look at games back when PlayStation 1s came out.
Yeah, that was it. That was final.
You had bugs, but they were probably, I would probably say they were stress tested or tested a lot more. I could be wrong, and if I am, then somebody just say I'm wrong, and I'll put a hand up to that. But for me, it does feel like, because they can go, we can put out these patches now, or we can fix it, and just literally just updating the number and updating the code for it.
Yeah.
It seems more like a rush.
No, I think the whole development cycle has just changed dramatically. I mean, you go back a decade or more, and how far in advance of a game releasing, was its alpha build? How far before release was its like actual beta? Not the betas we have this day and age, where they're effectively just game demos. But when you look at how the development cycle used to be, it was quite a while out. Whereas now, Wildlands open beta was 2-3 weeks before release?
Yeah, exactly. This is the thing. You look at. I'm going to use an example here of a game that I played a lot of that I really enjoyed, Metroid, back on the GameCube.
Oh, God, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't remember having many problems with that at all. I don't remember having that many problems at all with that sort of game. Because again, I just felt like, because they knew they couldn't. You think how much it would cost to recall all that those sort of games and have to,
of course,
re-put them out or resell them and all that sort of stuff. That's just my personal opinion on that. I said I could be wrong. There could be a lot of extensive testing. Obviously, I don't work in the games industry, but I do feel that we have been spoiled in that way, because I think a lot of it as well is due to people wanting the game to come out as well. And obviously, again, games were a business back then, but I'd say they're a much heavier business now than what they were, especially as you say, how big multimedia in terms of gaming industry has become. Like, for example, Bold Move, I'll use Bungie for example. Bold Move with Bungie delaying Destiny 2, but I think in the long run that's a good option for them.
Yeah. Thanks for that retweet, Caleb. Cheers, mate. Yeah, just, I totally agree with you, Jay. I totally agree with you. It just seems like, and I'm not even convinced that it's necessarily the devs' fault. I think a lot of it has to do with the publishers, with the bean counters, and they're like, no, every day we don't release, we're losing potential revenue, and, anyway, at the end of the day, yeah, Wildlands released, it wasn't perfect, it's still fun. It's still good, and it's just going to get better. This substantial update, it shows that Ubisoft is addressing concerns. In my mind, there's still a lot of other stuff they still haven't addressed. I mean, this whole task force tag thing just bothers me. It's still not showing up correctly in the game, and I still haven't seen anyone from the team actually acknowledge and put it on the known issues thread. But if you're out there and you're playing Wildlands, just remember, if you're experiencing any kind of issues, don't just sit there and moan about it. Actually put in tickets. Get on Twitter, tweet the Wildlands crew, get on the forums, put down messages, Things aren't going to change unless you actually voice your opinion. You can't just sit quietly and, think, oh, this is crap, you need to fix this, you need to fix that. Take action. That's, it's 2017, we can do that. We're the consumers. We drive, how things go with the game, so to speak.
As you say as well, so with games now, you have a lot of these games aren't released as that's it. We're done with it.
Yeah.
As we know, Wildlands is going to be a progressive thing anyway. There's 2 expansions set for it. I expect there will probably end up being more, or even a second game based on how well this goes for them. And as a result, because it's there, it's still what I would call a live game. It's not that's it, we're done with it, it's finished. It's a live game. So they're going to keep, as you say, fixing the problems, especially if it's game-breaking problems that are causing people these problems. Because if people have just brought the standard edition, like us mugs that brought the deluxe, then they're going to be thinking, I don't want to buy the expansion because it's got all these problems. But if Ubisoft's addressing it, if they actually show they want to address it, then they're going to think, well, in that case, then yeah, might want to look at buying these expansions, or I'll wait and come back to it a bit later on once all these sort of things have been fixed.
Yeah, so true. Speaking of fixing things, our next story, and we're not going to talk about this one too much because it's just going to make me upset that I don't have one. And that's it's from TheVerge.com, and this is about Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch itself is controversial. Yes, I know. Some folk are complaining about it. Some folk love it. Regardless, I think it's quite an interesting little bit of kit. Karma Killer with a retweet. Thanks there, buddy. Much appreciated, sir. In fact, what I need. Hold on, is that? It's fine. Anyway, sorry. I digress. One of the known issues, and we talked about this before, I'm sure a few weeks back, was the left Joy-Con on the Switch was having connectivity issues. And for weeks upon weeks, Nintendo didn't say a single thing about it. They made no comment, they didn't confirm or deny, and finally now, Nintendo has admitted that, look, there's connectivity issues with the left Joy-Con controller. But, hey, they've also said at the same time, there's a fix in place to make sure all units are working properly. So, just based off that info, you think, wow, that's great, that's so cool, good on Nintendo to actually, to do that, because that's quite, crappy, the fact that, the controller disconnects, it's going to ruin gameplay, and whatnot. What's really, really interesting is, have you seen, Jay, what this fix is? It's, you think, a fix, what are they doing? Is it like, a redesign? Is it, maybe new hardware inside? Is it actually to do with the Wi-Fi connectivity, or whatever it uses, Bluetooth? Is it any of those things?
Well, I didn't realise, but reading this, though, it seems like this article, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a piece of foam. That's the fix. That's what version 1.1 or 2, whatever the hell they call it. The new Joy-Con, all they've basically done is on the inside, they've got a little piece of conductive foam. Not very fancy, obviously not very expensive, But according to Nintendo, that's going to fix it. So basically what they're saying is, look, if you're out there and you've got a Nintendo Switch and you're having those issues with the left Joy-Con, look, they'll offer you a free repair. Yes, they will put that tiny little piece of conductive foam in there for free. And they're saying it's about a 1 week turnaround time because, you know, it does take that long to open up the Joy-Con, put a piece of foam in and send it back to you. You know, obviously. I mean, okay, I don't want to be negative about this because, okay, look, at least they've admitted there's a problem, they're addressing it, and they're offering customers a fix. But on the other hand, how silly is that? That, you know, what is that, Jay? Is that a design flaw? Is that just laziness? I mean, not enough testing? What's going on with that?
I know, I think it's quite funny how they figured out a problem, the fix for being a little small foam insert. How do you even come to that conclusion? I mean, what do? You take a controller and you go, oh, well, we'll try different materials. Paper, no, it doesn't seem to work. Cardboard, a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
All the foam, fantastic. What I find quite weird though is the fact that there seems to be happening because of a design difference between the left and right controller, which gave the right controller a stronger Bluetooth signal. From what I'm aware of for the Switch, surely they're the exact same controller, aren't they? Really?
Mm-hmm.
They both have the same utility and same use of it. So why have they been designed differently? That's what I don't. It's not like one of them. Well, apart from, I think one of the sides gives you like you can fill like, for example, ice cubes or whatever. But again, though, I mean, how do you come to a design difference on two sides of the controller? From what I can tell, are virtually the same.
Yeah. No, that's strange. But hey, there you go. At least Nintendo has said, look, we know there's an issue and we'll fix it for you. And all future Nintendo Switches are not going to have that issue.
But it's good to see that being good to say, look, we'll fix the problem for free as well and everything, not just this, oh yeah, you know, send it off, we'll have a look. At least they're being, you know, we'll replace it for you. I think that's good for them.
Yeah.
Especially seeing as it was their cock up at the end of the day.
Speaking of controllers, let's talk about the hot new sexiness that was just announced either yesterday or the day before. And so this, you know, again, this is all over the internet, but I just pulled it up on Tech Radar. And if we just have a look at this picture here, the new wireless Xbox One controller, which I believe is called, they're coming out with this new Tech series. Right, this is what they're calling the Tech series. And so this first offering from them is called the Recon Tech Special Edition. And when you look at it, it does look gorgeous. I mean, it is still technically just a normal Xbox One controller, but keeping in mind the new Xbox One controllers have Bluetooth now. And they do from everything.
Nice one, my furry friend.
Oops, I just accidentally clicked that. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. Actually, it's actually quite. No, it's actually quite fitting there. You know, because the new controllers allegedly feel, you know, like when we got our Elites, and it was so easy to feel the difference between the Elite and the bog standard ones.
Oh yeah.
Well, allegedly the new ones from the Xbox One S, you know, onwards, there's less of a difference. You know, they feel sturdier, they feel better, and so this Tech, this Recon Tech Special Edition, has some pretty nice features to it. It's got, you know, okay, the same stuff like I was saying. It's got the built-in Bluetooth. It's got the built-in headphone jack instead of needing, you know, the adapter. It's got actually better wireless and Bluetooth range than a standard controller. And it just looks really, really nice. The design of it's quite cool. I'm sure that it has, on the underside of the controller, it's got the same... You know how our Elites have the... if I hold this
yeah, it's got the same sort of grip, hasn't it,
to the camera. You know, they've got this rubber grip. From what I'm looking at of the picture, it doesn't have the rubber on the outside bit, but it does on the inside, if that makes sense. You know, like on the right there. So it does look like a nice piece of kit. Pricing looks reasonable-ish. I mean, controllers are expensive nowadays, but I think it's just slightly more than a normal controller, which, considering its features, its aesthetics, I guess it's somewhat justified. I think, for those out there that weren't willing to pay the premium price for an Elite controller, I think this is probably a good option for that, for those people.
Yeah, it's not a bad option, to be fair. Especially for what it looks nice. If I didn't have an Elite controller, I would debate buying one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a sucker for things that look cool when it comes to tech stuff. So.
Yeah.
But I got my nice, swanky Elite controller, and nothing will ever replace that baby. Nothing. I was about to say I'm a bit jealous as well, because I just looked back at yours and you got a chance back, which I still haven't been able to fucking get yet.
Sorry.
Just upset.
Sorry.
I had to
Have you ever had it? Actually, do I have a good look at how that actually works? Because, obviously it comes with this different battery door, and then the battery pack itself is like, there's a bit of light in there, but if I do down here, right, you can see it's just got those 3 little tabby things on. So I mean,
yeah.
You basically just slap that bad boy in there. Let me make sure I've actually got it. Yeah, that's the right way. That is the right way. And then, it doesn't interfere with the... I got it on right. Yeah, it doesn't interfere with the paddles, and then it just plops right on the base. But one day it'll be back in stock. One day.
Just upset I've spent batteries for it. It's battery drain and a half. But
Yeah.
What controller isn't again nowadays?
I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to get hands-on. There's no doubt, your local game store is going to have these, probably one on display. So I'd like to, at least go touch it and see what it's like. But yeah, there's supposed to be the release on April 25th. It looks like pricing in the States is $70. Over here, it's about £60, which, is less than half the price of an Elite controller. So, when you put that into perspective, it's not too bad. Right, this next bit of news is quite interesting because it's actually been updated since it was posted. But this was from PC Mag, and this was about the Ryzen 7 chips. Now, if you remember, we talked about the Ryzen 7, the top-of-the-line AMD chips, a few weeks back. And so the original story here was that... Oh, excuse me. It was something to do... What was it with the instruction sets?
Yeah, FMA
3, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, my understanding with this, when it comes to processors, even so, we've got newfangled fast processors. The actual architecture is still quite old. There's still this kind of tried and trusted system of how a CPU works, and it's just moving information, accessing and sending it, and it goes in cycles. That's what your megahertz stands for. It's that many million cycles a second. Think of a cycle as this kind of loop, this journey that the information has to travel. And so these kind of what they call streaming SIMD extensions, or SSE, which everyone's seen SSE on the box of a processor or something, SSE2, SSE3. And so it's basically an instruction set for a CPU, and it enables it to perform certain calculations much more efficiently or much more quicker. So what was the deal with this, Jay? What was it actually being reported as doing?
It's basically saying that the was causing a problem with usable applications that used it, utilising the FMA3 code, and it could result in a system hang. So obviously, BIOS was basically just not wanting to play ball. But it's quite interesting though, because obviously they had support for the instruction set back in 2012. But yeah, obviously with this, for some odd reason, it's not having problems. So anybody that's got this problem or experience has got to wait patiently to see if when obviously the required BIOS updates are available for them.
Mm-hmm.
BIOS updates, which is At least they've realised this now. It says right at the end as well. It's quite good considering the same problem could have been present on the its data center processors called the Naples. So it's saves a big problem having found this out now. Obviously, for those that have got it and have got the problem, it's a bit of a ball ache, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Especially considering, like you say, these are supposed to be competing with the Intel, and now you've had this sort of snag in their kind of plans. They said they know what the problem is, but they won't actually say what the problem is. They know it, but they won't say.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite interesting. Was this update from PC Mag, and they said, look, since we posted this article, AMD's been in touch to clarify, and AMD said that basically, look, we are aware of one instance where a user-built application utilizing this FMA3 code could result in a system hang. We've identified the root cause and will soon release BIOS changes to motherboard vendors that will resolve the issue. So, cool. At least they're kind of, quick about, getting it all sorted out.
Well, yeah.
Because there's been a few things that I think hasn't been the processor's fault, but has actually been the motherboards. Because I'm sure there was something else where people were getting quite weird benchmark scores, like following a restart or putting the PC to hibernate or something like that, and then resuming. So there's definitely some dodgy stuff going on with the factory BIOSes that have basically come with the motherboards. I don't think it's the fault of the processor itself in most of these instances.
By weird, are we talking extremely high or extremely low, or just a bit weird?
It was a bit weird. I'm sure it was Linus from Linus Tech Tips who had reported it a while back, because he was one of the first folk to get hold of the Ryzen 7 chips, and he was doing some tests, and I'm not sure if it was him that discovered it, but I remember him reporting on it, saying, look, there's some weird kind of things going on, but I can't remember if it was beneficial to their scores or detrimental.
Yeah.
That's what I can't remember. Or it might even been a mix of the two, to be honest. But either way, there's some teething issues, but hey, it's fine. These things happen. Right. So next one is, funnily enough, it's from. Was that? Yeah, it's a UK newspaper, is it not? It doesn't just. It's because it says .com. Maybe there's an American version as well. Anyway, it was from the Guardian, and so this is some Google news, the huge giant that's Google, and they've unveiled Android Zero, which is promising a better battery life. Now I remember I'd seen this on my newsfeed this morning, and honestly didn't sit and read it. I just kind of glanced over and kind of went next. What was the deal with this, Jay? What was going on with this? What is the hell is Android Zero or Android O?
Well,
what is it? Is it O or Zero?
It's O, so it'll be after whatever the.
Of course, because of their
they
nougat.
haven't got a name for it yet, have they?
Yeah, nougat. Of course, yeah. I forgot that Android uses that lettering system.
So we don't know what they can call it. Orange, for all we know. So yeah, I don't know what they're going to call it, but as you say, a lot of it. Most significant, as they say, is how the apps deal with the battery use and how they run in the background.
Okay.
So it says here about them, the apps will automatically be limited in what they can do when they're running in the background in the three specific areas of the background services, the location updates and the implicit broadcasts. And apparently these three areas are the ones that often cause the most fault when it comes to battery draining apps. So apparently it says here as well, in the future developers will be limited in how much they can do in the background. So location, for instance, will only be updated a few times each hour. What background services programs which run continuously will now be closed automatically after a short period, which is quite good. Because I mean, how many times on the phone do you open an app, close it, and you don't realise it doesn't properly close it? It does run in that background, and then you go to your battery life, you're like, oh, this has taken up like 60% of my battery life, but it turned off 2 hours ago. I think you're right, especially on Android devices. I mean, I'd not that long ago, done the unforgivable and actually switched over to the Apple OS. And yes, I mean, for years and years and years I avoided them. And honestly, I think
the iOS does a pretty good job of actually shutting down processes compared to my previous Android devices. Because you're right, if you've ever looked at your, how you can go into your settings and look at like your battery history and see how much power each app has used, etc., etc. And that's what's really quite interesting. I had my stepdaughter's tablet. She's got one of those, the Huddle 2s or whatever that they used to sell at Tesco. I don't think they sell them anymore. But anyway, that uses, I don't know if it's Marshmallow or whatever the heck it is, but it's definitely like a modified Android operating system. And I remember our battery was like completely dead, to the point it wouldn't do anything. So I had to leave it on an overnight charge, try to get it back up. And was looking at it, and sure enough, there was like one game or something that she hadn't even been playing, but because it was in the background, and over a period of 7 days, it accounted for like 94% of the battery usage.
Yeah.
And that was just one app. Obviously not a very well coded app. But yeah, no, it's, I think as much, I do like Android. I mean, hell, that's what I've been doing, the Java for Android, Android Studio and whatnot at school, and it is cool. It's a great system, but it's definitely it needs a few more optimizations, I would think. But pretty cool though.
Well, there's more stuff they're doing. Well, it's not just the battery usage. There's a few little things here. So Android developers can group their notifications into categories called channels, which is quite interesting. So allowing apps to offer more fine-grained control over how users receive the notifications. So, for instance, the news app might offer notifications for breaking news and for replies to comments. So now the user can explicitly tell Android to let the former play a sound, vibrate, show on the lock screen, while quietly sliding the latter into the notification menu. And again, this is quite interesting, the introduction of a snooze button to notifications. So if you're sort of needing an empty inbox but can't deal with that one text quite yet, Android will now simply resend it a bit later. So that's quite interesting.
That is a nice feature. I like that. That's pretty cool. So there you go. So, Android O. Now the thing is, they keep going with the sweet, come on, Kit Kat, Lollipop, Marshmallow, Nougat. So, what is sweet and starts with an O?
I saw quite an interesting number as well whilst reading into an article about this, but I don't know if it was true. It was to do with how many phones actually have the Nougat on them, because apparently it was quite a low percentage that have that update. I don't know if that was just like something I found that's just been pulled somewhere, but
well, because what's the majority? Is it still Marshmallow, or is it even older than that?
I think a lot of it's Marshmallow or Lollipop. But I can't remember. I read this now, but it was quite. I was quite surprised. I didn't realise. Let's see if I can find the article for it.
It's what's quite interesting is something I mentioned Apple's there, and so a lot of these changes, according to this article, are saying, look, if these changes sound familiar, it might be because they're similar to how iOS handles background applications. It's not that they're copying them at all. They've just and it's quite funny. The article goes on to say that, look, the two operating systems have been converging on this ground, since their inception. If you go back far enough to an older version of Android, there was once no limit on what apps could do in the background. Whereas on the opposite end of the spectrum, Apple basically banned every single background process that it didn't actually create. So that's quite interesting how, they've just been on the complete opposite sides of the spectrum, and they're both just slowly kind of, getting towards a nice medium, and in between saying, well, look, we can't ban them all, but at the same time, we can't just let any process run it, that wants to. So it's good. It's good to see that there's, more similarities now, than before. Because, I mean, there's a lot of similarities. Maybe not from a coding standpoint, but At least as far as aesthetics and the way they operate, they seem to be quite similar these days. Did you find what you were looking for? No luck.
No, I couldn't. I remember seeing it somewhere. I said it could have been a number that was pulled to something or just random made up thing, but it kind of shocked me a bit. So it was true.
It's
but
fine.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we've had quite a good mix of game stuff and tech stuff, and so we'll finish off with one more item, and that's in the world of gaming. Now, this is a game that we played, the closed beta, we played the open beta, and we enjoyed it, we liked it, but neither of us actually picked this game up. Many of you out there probably loved this game, or maybe loved it, and have now been slightly disillusioned by it. And that is no other than For Honor, another Ubisoft game, because yes, we're evidently Ubisoft fanboys around here. You know, I don't know how we became this way, it's just the way it is. But this article's from Eurogamer.net. And this article is specifically talking about their controversial progression system. Now, if you've played For Honor, you know what we're talking about. If you haven't, basically, what you had to do was, you could level up and all that kind of stuff. You'd get XP, but there was a currency in the game called steel. And steel is what you used to unlock characters, to purchase different things, to upgrade your armor, because there were even like these armor packs and weapon packs that would contain random stuff. You had no idea what was in them, but those cost steel. So you think, oh, okay, well that's cool, you know. It's an in-game currency, and so obviously you can buy it, you know, if you want to, if you don't want to grind. You know, that seems to be the model nowadays for so many games. They either offer you a grind, or they'll offer you a bit of a shortcut where, okay, look, instead of having to do that, you can just buy it. Look at Warframe, for example. You can go out, run missions, try to farm up materials and blueprints to then build the stuff yourself, or you can buy premium currency and just buy them. Right? It's not pay to win, it's pay to save you time, because you can still get the exact same things without spending a dime. Okay, so what's so controversial about that, you ask? Because, let's face it, there's a lot of games out there that do that. What's interesting, and what the complaint is with For Honor, is exactly how much of a grind it is. What they're saying is basically, look, if you want to unlock a hero, and all of its associated aesthetic items, right? Its emotes, its executions, its effects, its outfits, and their ornaments. You need 91,500 steel. Okay? So, if you want to do that for all 12 characters that are in the game right now, keeping in mind more will be added later, you need over 1 million steel. So, if we do the math on this is where it's quite painful. To buy 150,000 steel is 80 quid. 80 pounds, right? So you would need more than 7 of those. So that'd be 585 quid to buy all of that, right? Of course, no one's going to spend that kind of money for that stuff. That's just stupid. You know, all of us are going to say, no, we'll just grind. And this is where the issue pops up. If you've ever played it, and you've seen how much steel you get, right? If you can complete these standing orders and contracts, and so basically you can get 1,000 steel from a contract, and then it's usually, say, about 200 steel for a match that you play. So someone's done the math here, and just to unlock all the stuff for one hero would take you about, 77 days, right? There's a user out there called Bystander 007, and he calculated if you wanted to unlock all of the stuff for all of the characters without spending a dime, get this, it would take 915 days. That's 2.5 years. What? What do you got to say to that, Jay?
Yeah, it's very interesting reading all these comments And I mean, you look at the whole amount of time it takes. That's just an absurd amount of time. Like, that's just ridiculous.
I mean, that is crazy. For, you know, I mean, you talk about like investing time in an MMO, you know, or even an RPG, and you know, anything with a persistent world. And okay, you can understand it might take a certain amount of time to reach a certain level, to get certain gear. But for this type of game, I mean, like, okay, Call of Duty, how long would someone have to play, okay, Battlefield 1, how long would you have to play Battlefield 1 to unlock everything? Or, you know, level up all your guys, or, you know what I mean? Well, surely not 2.5 years.
This is where the interesting thing comes, though, from my point. This is from me,
mm-hmm.
gamer personally. Obviously, I haven't read about this, about the bloke having said, obviously, where was it? About the fact they don't expect him to unlock everything, and that doesn't make sense. And you've got a lot of hate towards that remark from him.
Mm-hmm.
Especially a lot of people saying it's poor game design and stuff. But without this sounding funny, take for example, I haven't put a lot of time into Battlefield, granted, but the only class I've played in Battlefield is medic. I've delved into the assault, I've delved into the sniper, but my main class is medic. That's the one I want to build up. That's the one I want to get the stuff on. Obviously, they're getting a lot of complaints about them likening it to an MMO because it's a fighter game. Now, I could be wrong in this, but I could be very wrong in this, but don't a lot of pro game fighter games and everything, don't they just focus on a couple of people they're really good with? I mean, I could be wrong on that.
No, you're right. They'll have like a repertoire. They'll have their main, but they'll have a few just for the kind of instance where they're like, oh shit, I need a certain character to counter. You know, like, say, if we're talking about Street Fighter, like, oh, I can use Ken, and I can beat everyone with Ken, unless it's a Chun-Li. And if it's Chun-Li, I need to use E Honda or something, you know. So, yeah, you know, you're right. And I mean, when you put it into that context, I suppose if you've got a character you really, really like, is 2.5 months really an inordinate amount of time in order to fully unlock that person? I don't think so.
I can understand a lot of people getting a lot of flack about, oh, you know, he paid this price for this game. Again, obviously, there's a lot of backlash about them comparing it to a MOBA, because in all fairness, it is a lot different to a MOBA in that respect. I don't think that was a good comment. Obviously, I haven't played League for God knows how many long. I don't think that's a great comparison. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, you know, a MOBA comparison isn't good either, like comparing it to WoW. But at the same time, again, without being funny, I only play the Priest on WoW for fucking ages. Until I started to explore the other classes. And that's when I started to get bored, because I've done a lot of stuff on him anyway. So, you know, I'll make a few old piss around, leveling with friends and stuff. Yeah. But again, though, based around what this game is, I can see why there's a lot of backlash about it, and why a lot of people are upset, especially about the comments being made. Because a lot of people would have probably brought this game to play all these characters. But like I said, for me personally, I don't look at games like that. Like, for example, when we played the betas, the closed beta and the open beta, I mainly played the Ninja guys. I don't think I really touched the Vikings or the Samurai. I didn't really touch the Vikings. All the other ones were now Knights, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I barely touched them. I touched them a few times to learn about the mechanics and how they work. Because obviously, if you're gonna play anything like that, those sort of games, although the balance is never great, because although people say, oh, yeah, you know, like balancing and everything, it's very hard to balance games like that, because
yeah, true.
If you balance too much, it becomes a point where there's not really much difference between them, and that for me isn't great. I used to get really angry, especially with the one of the barbarians who could, you're probably a Viking, sorry, whatever it was. Yeah, I can't remember their fucking things. Who could literally charge you off the fucking side of a building. Yeah. But at that point, though, whenever I saw him, I was like, right, don't fight near. Yeah, he can slam me into a wall and cause me problems, but just don't fight him near the edge where he can just one-hit KO me, because that's just me being stupid at that point in time. Like I said, I much prefer to focus on one or two people, as the guy said.
I mean, you're right.
Complaining about it, though.
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, what Jay's talking about there is, this is the actual dev team said this. They said, look, we had no intention for you to unlock everything. That doesn't make any sense, And it's quite interesting, their justification, like you said, how they're comparing it to a MOBA, and they actually use World of Warcraft as a good comparison, saying, look, you would never try to unlock everything for all of the characters. And they designed the progression system under the assumption that, look, most people would stick with one hero, or maybe, you know, up to 3. And that's just, it's funny they're saying that that's what they imagined. And I mean, you, and even like me when I was playing it, I only used, well, the knights. You know, there was only, I did use all 3 of them, but still I stuck to my guns and I only used, you know, them. And I honestly think that is the average player of For Honor. I think what this all stems for is this, in this day and age, the sense of entitlement. Oh, wait a minute, what do you mean? For me to unlock everything, it's going to be really hard and take a really long time? That's bullshit. I want it easy and I want it now. You know, it just, for me it feels that way at least. You know, there's a lot of games out there that really, really pander to folk and kind of hand things out, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas you think, you go all the way back to the 8-bit days, and there were some games that just your average kid, your average gamer, could not finish. That was just the way it was. You know, you just couldn't finish it. Or, you know, there were secrets that people didn't know about, or, you know, there were... It was... I hate using words like casual and elitist, you know, or hardcore, but it just seems that games... Things have got a bit softer, and your typical gamer nowadays just kind of expects everything handed to them with, you know, minimal effort but maximum reward.
I kind of agree with that, and I'm going to use my WoW background from this. In Wrath of the Lich King, where gear up till, obviously I started playing in TPC, so I didn't even get to see the wonderful joys of vanilla. I really wish I had done. But anyway, besides that point, I'm not going to go off on a tangent there. Looking in Wrath of the Lich King, how hard gear was to get back when you're an old guy, you had to kill bosses, and then suddenly when Trial TOC came out, it's like, oh yeah, you can get all these marks from your heroics, and then you can buy your gear, and I'm like, really? Yeah, you get to grind for it, but it's not the same as going, I've got this gear because I progressed through this raid, I progressed through the end game, and that was for me when I started seeing that happen, and it became a big problem in WoW for me, because you could have people, without being funny, who could run around in full tier gear and quite frankly be shocking. And I mean, like, you know, watching guys run around in full tier gear pulling half the DPS of somebody who's in, like,
absolutely.
And you're thinking,
yeah,
ridiculous.
I know exactly. I remember when I'd took a break and then I'd returned and I was like in Quest Blues, and like my buddy was like, oh look, you know, hey, it's so and so, and oh, we used to play way back in the day. So I immediately got invited, you know, to a raid they were doing, and they're like, oh, but you know, they're like, look, don't worry about him, you know, he is really cool, but his gear, you know, he doesn't have anything good. And I was the same. I was on my kitty druid and I was out DPS in most of the raid. And you know, they were just like, what? How? But your gear's shit. Your gear score's only, you know, whatever the hell it was. It's like, well, yeah, but, you know, get good.
You had that mechanical experience point. You understood the game.
Especially with kitty DPS. Oh god, balancing the bleeds, getting your time and control.
It's the same with same when I played Death Knight, like having to keep. I actually eventually got because I had got fed up of having to look up. I got a rune bar add-on that allowed me to see exactly what my runes would be off cooldown, so I could time everything. I had DPS rotations that were reliant on, if this rune's about to come up, wait. If it's not, then do this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's. I can understand why why there's the backlash, because a lot of, to be fair, you're paying this price for this game. You'd like to think everything's available to you. And
yeah,
I
true.
totally agree with that. Honestly, I completely and utterly agree with that. I can see why it's completely and utterly warranted why they're being like that. But again, me personally, probably other gamers out there like you as yourself as well, prefer to focus on things like, for example, let's just use Seeds again, for example.
That's
Seeds,
true.
I haven't played half of the operators. I haven't touched Frost. I only recently touched Smoke and Mute because of the Commonwealth, which I didn't get a chance to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you've got these people complaining about, oh yeah, but you know, stop giving us these challenges or whatever it is for people we can't play. It's like you can't play them, you just have the stuff unlocked. Yeah, okay, it makes it a bit more difficult for you, granted, fair enough. And I suppose a good way to do it is to give them more steel and stuff. And again, a lot of players' problems is this microtransaction system, which we've discussed before, and has become a massive problem in gaming. And I won't deny I'm part of the problem there. I'm a sucker for microtransactions.
Well, hey, me too. Me too.
A lot of my microtransactions though haven't been for improving my gameplay. Like, for example, League, I've spent so much money on skins. That
Yeah.
doesn't affect my gameplay whatsoever.
Yeah, you just look cool as hell.
My looks, or like you've got like special characters in League. Like, for example, you recently had the Elementalist Lux come out, which obviously changes the particle effects, the look of the character, the effects of their spells and abilities. I love that sort of stuff. That's really cool. Again, let's look at Destiny in this one. I'm buying not armor, I was like looking at getting things like sparrows, ships, and things like that, stuff that doesn't affect my overall PvP more so, because obviously PvE you have too much. If you're going to benefit your team, you're going to benefit your team, great. But obviously with something like Forerunner, all this sort of stuff does give you stats, doesn't it? It does.
Yeah, I mean, okay, a lot of this stuff is still aesthetic.
Yeah.
But when you go into, like, I suppose, well, no, I mean, I guess technically it is all aesthetic, aside from the unlocking of the characters. You know.
And so I don't. If it's just aesthetic and it's not giving you any bonuses or increasing any stats, I don't see. Yeah, I can see both sides of the argument. And I can understand why the developers come out why I've said it. In a way, it's not great. Let's say, it's just PR or whatever for the developer, because it's a comment like that is going to cause a lot of outrage from a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially when you say it like that, because you basically.
Well, when you add up the math, you know, it's like, what? But
especially if you're going to say basically these people have said, you're telling me to buy this game, but then you're not going to give me all the content.
Yeah, but I think you made a good point. I think it's unrealistic, you know, and a lot of people say, oh, you know, whatever, but like in a game like that, you're not going to be a master at every single class. That's unrealistic. Yeah. You know, in Rainbow Six Siege, you know, unless you're a pro, and I still don't think any of the pros are masters with every single operator.
No, they won't.
There'll be a handful. You know,
sort of thing. I mean, like, for example, using COD as an example, let's look at the COD like competitive scene. There is a set amount of weapons that are used. Like, you have the odd person who come out of a weapon, you think, holy shit, but it's a set of stuff. It's because, again, as I say, because these games have to be diverse. There is always going to be a meta game.
Yeah,
always going to be a meta game. That's just unfortunately the state of online games. So as I said, if you don't have this meta game, you might as well just be playing the exact same class, and then it does just come down to mechanical skill. But you could have, again, I'll use League for example. I once brought a champ into a lane, and I basically had my whole entire team flame the shit out of me, saying, "Why have you picked that champ? It's not. You'll get countered to shit because they picked their champ first, so I picked the counter. I just picked a champ, like, oh, that doesn't count. You're getting absolutely dicked on. I turned around and carried the game. I just outplayed this person, and that's the thing. If you understand how, if you play a champ long enough, you understand their weaknesses. If you play a character long enough, you understand their strengths, their weaknesses, where they're going to benefit from. Like, for example, it took me a while to realise on one of the samurai that obviously with the light attackers, the blocks you can't hold down. You have to really time it. It's got like a 1 or 2 second period you can hold it down for, and then it disappears. I never realised.
You know, that's making me think. I mean, well, on one hand, the argument, like, okay, you know, oh, that's a really long time, blah, 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 but at the same time, is it not also rewarding someone, like, showing that, you know, if you've got everything unlocked, let's just use, okay, the Warden from the Knights as an example, if you've got all of the executions, all of this, that, and this, you know, I mean, you're basically getting rewarded for that. You know, it's like, oh, wow, look, this person's invested 2.5 months solely into that character. They've got all the unlocks, they've got all the stuff. You know, again, for me, that kind of harkens back to the old WoW days of you see someone in tier 3 armor, you know, raid armor, and you're like, oh wow, you know, this person just knows their stuff, because it's not easy to get a hold of.
Yeah, exactly.
It just anyway, we could go in circles about, you know, because I know we both feel quite similarly when it comes to, you know.
Just want to obviously just bring back one point though, Lewis, was a point you made earlier, which I think really does sum it up very well. Is you talk about all these old like 8-bit games and everything, and how you had these sort of casual and elitist. I think that is a perfect summary of it, because gaming nowadays is such a bigger market. Back when it first came out, when I was younger, probably when you were as well, without saying funny, you used to get called nerds or geeks for playing games. Whereas that's sort of, I say stigma, sort of just gone.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people that aren't used to this sort of stuff. They're not used to this
no.
sort of
You're right, it's gamer chic nowadays. You know?
You have a lot of people who, I know people you'd look at and you think, oh, they've never played games, but they're massive COD fanboys. And you think, but there's so much other stuff out there other than COD, and I think, as you say, as you summed up, I think that's a very, very good point. To be fair, if you've grown up gaming from being a young age, so some of these people that are complaining have been gaming for years upon years, and fair enough, they've got their reasons to justify. They've got their reasons, but as we both say, and so we keep going on forever, I will pick 1, 2, 3, or 4 people.
Yeah.
And I'll slowly branch out when I'm bored or want to try something different.
I think that's quite. It shows you that if that was the dev's concept for the average gamer, I would never consider you an average gamer, because you have always, you push progression, in different games, different formats. So it's interesting that, it just kind of shows that, look, someone like yourself who will put the time in a game, that is even normal behavior for you.
Yeah.
A hardcore player, if there's such a thing, is still, only going to be doing the 3 heroes or whatever. So
well, look at Wildlands, for example. You've got all these weapon accessories you can get, weapons, and I'm going around collecting them all because I'm a completionist like that, plus there's achievements I want to get as well.
Yep.
I'm an achievement whore like that. But that's the point though. Half those weapons I've got, I've looked at them and gone, oh yeah, there's these stats, but I still prefer this gun. I've been using my AK-47 and my M4A01, I think it's sniper weapon for ages, and I've been reading up there's the game's best sniper in a certain zone. I haven't gone there to get it yet because I'm just progressing through. I don't mind. I have yet to use a shotgun. I only used a shotgun once, and that's because it kind of made sense for the mission I was doing. So I'm not going to say what it was. I don't want to spoil anything. And I use an SMG as my secondary, same a pistol, but I don't use an SMG or shotgun ever really. It's assault rifle and sniper because that's my play style.
Assault rifle and sniper.
Yeah, I could go through to another playthrough at some point, playing completely different. But at the moment, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm collecting all the weapons. I'm collecting all the accessories. Doesn't mean I'm going to use them. I could just go through the whole storyline and ignore that. It's just, as you say, it's just. But I'm not complaining, going, oh, I can't use all these because. Although it's a slightly different argument because it takes a lot less time for me to get all this sort of stuff. It's not going to take me 900 days to get all the weapons and things. But again, I'm not going to cycle through using all the weapons in it at all.
Oh, well. Well, that's just over an hour, my friend. That was a great chat. Once again, thank you so much for joining me on Jungle Drums this evening. For all of those that, tuned in live, thank you so much for popping by. Thank you so much for the love and the retweets for those of you that tweeted out the stream. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for sitting through. Make sure to like if you like, dislike if you don't, subscribe if you already haven't, and hey, share. Why not? Share the love. Spread that beam love. Anyway, that is me for this evening. If you only watch Jungle Drums, I will see you again next Thursday at 9 p.m. GMT. Remember, if you're in other parts of the world, we turn our clocks forward this weekend, don't we?
Yes, we do.
So there's going to be an hour more of a difference, if you know what I mean. If you're over in the States and I'm however many hours ahead of you right now, I'm going to be another hour ahead of you, so to speak, come next week. And of course, I'll be doing my thing, playing something tomorrow. I think it's just going to be me and you playing games tomorrow, isn't it? Because the guys are.
I'm on the late tomorrow, so I'm
You're on a late?
About 9:30ish. Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. I'll still be kicking around. But anyway, hey, again, thanks for watching, and I will catch you again next week.